Hello, everybody. My name's Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, challenger CPG brands, consumer packaged goods largely, can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business through to the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's something that's important to you and you're ready for. The bottom line is Tracy and I have been doing this for a long time. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've done a few good things along the way. And if we can help smooth out your journey on the road to retail, we'd love to help you out. Tracy?
Absolutely. So as Bruce mentioned, we've been doing this a long time, and a long time is 30 plus years. And our experience is really in commercial operations and consumer packaged goods. And you might ask, what's commercial operations? So it's a wide range of things, anything from sales, marketing, managing distributors, managing brokers, divestitures, investments, product development. We've done a little bit of everything. And that's really the purpose of our Road to Retail podcast, is to share with you our learnings, the good things and the bad things and the mistakes that we've made. But we, like Bruce said, done a few good things. And then also on our episodes, we invite friends and colleagues from the CPG industry to join our podcast to share their insights and experiences as their journey as brand founders or service providers, just a wide variety of folks that we have on our podcast. So today we have a fantastic guest that I think everybody's going to enjoy. So I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Andrew Weiss. So Andrew, welcome to the podcast. We really appreciate you being on today. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you and your background, and you can go into as much detail as you want. So tell us a little bit about you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Bruce. Great to be on with you. So I've been in the industry about 24 years now, everything from owning my own business to scaling startups, helping large CPG companies expand, and bringing international companies into the US. About 3 years ago, I saw that there was a real need in the marketplace for smaller brand, startup, mid-level companies to have somebody that could come in and help them navigate the waters, just like you gentlemen are doing on your podcast now, almost as a co-CEO, if you will. Now, my business can range anywhere from helping you lead sales, marketing, strategy, operations. I've run manufacturing facilities, so if there's any operational issues, I can always come in and help with that. But I've seen so many times a broker will be hired by a small brand, not sell the product, and the broker be fired. Now, why is that? Am I a huge advocate for brokers? No. But am I a huge advocate for the process of how you build a CPG company? I am. And that's where the partnered CEO came to life. So if a broker comes in and you don't have everything in line as far as your marketing, your branding, your packaging, that broker is not set up to be successful. Same thing if you hire a direct salesman. You're not giving them the tools they need to be set up for success. And that's where I come in, bringing that 20 plus years of experience in the industry, seeing how everything's changed over the years. Obviously pre-COVID, much different in the world of business as it is today. And I like to help people balance out their business, understand where their shortcomings are, get rid of unnecessary processes, and help them scale.
That's awesome. I love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing your background. That's a much needed thing in the industry today. Bruce, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, please. So Andrew, thank you for coming on the show. So being CEO of several smaller CPG companies and then also helping others, what advice do you think that a small emerging brand really needs to consider before they, get real excited and say, hey, I sold a dozen of these at the farmer's market 4 weeks in a row, and they go crazy? So what are some of the early good moves a brand should consider and kind of, map out? As some people just love to, go. I always find that calming down and putting pen to paper and kind of drawing the map is usually pretty helpful.
Absolutely. And having a plan in place is always going to be critical, but we know that you have to be flexible in that plan. Companies that make a plan, stick to the plan, more times than not, they're heading down the wrong road. The three things that I really prioritize in a small emerging brand is what's your differentiation? What
Mhm.
does your innovation look like for the future? And then what does your consumer engagement plan look like? Do you know your target demographics? Do you know what new demographic you'd like to bring in to that segment of CPG? Something that you may offer that another company in that space doesn't. And then how are you going to reach those consumers? You know, one thing that I really try to instill in everybody is although CPG companies sell a product, that's not what you are. You are a marketing company that's providing a solution. You are not a, let's call it an energy drink that is trying to be sold on a shelf. And I think that's really instrumental in understanding how to go forward. Flexibility, it's number one key to success. You've got to have that plan, but open to adjustments, look at market feedback. Investing in targeted market research is also a great idea. You need to understand a consumer's preference, tailor your product, and then try to sell it to them, try to market it to them.
Well, that's great. And for those folks out there that have tortured themselves and listened to multiple episodes here with Tracy and I, there's those words again, folks. Differentiation. How are you different in the marketplace? Our favorite example to beat on is gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. Personally, I'm a big fan, but if you're going to be the 14th brand that tries to show up at XYZ retailer, you better have a really good, meaningful point of difference, because as we talked about, and I'm sure we'll get into, Tracy and I have talked before, and I'm sure Andrew could go deeper here if he'd like. You know, retailers, they don't really care about your brand performance. They care about their category performance, and they care about having
Yeah.
happy customers, and they like being the go-to place when that consumer gets in the car and says, I need stuff. Where am I going? Tracy?
Yeah, no, I love what you said, Andrew, about differentiation, and we just preach that so much to our small emerging audience. We also preach a lot about having a plan, having a go-to-market strategy, and in that, talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the mistakes that you've seen brands make entering retail. Things like what retailers that do you want to go to? The big question I know a lot of our small emerging brands struggle with is how do I know I'm ready, right? And we have our one of our bumper stickers is my baby's beautiful, and so my family loves my product. I sell out every time I go to the farmer's market. But really, talk to us about how do you know you're ready, and then how do you pick where you go, geography and retailers, and maybe some of the successes and mistakes that you've seen some of the brands you've worked on make.
Yeah, it's a great question and one that I'm faced with quite often when starting out talking to emerging brands. The way that I look at it, some of the biggest mistakes that are made are overestimating demand. Having your demand planning done properly is crucial to cash flow. Scaling too quickly or attempting to scale too quickly, and then neglecting to establish a really solid distribution strategy. And I don't mean who's going to distribute your product, but who's going to distribute it, how they're going to distribute it, and how you're going to partner with them to get that product into the marketplace. You've got to know that you can build a strong retailer relationship, kind of like what Bruce mentioned earlier. Buyers don't care about your product. They care about the performance of the category. That's what they're judged on.
Mhm.
So make sure that you can build strong retailer relationships and have a fast moving product, but one that you can bring more consumers to their store. Is that the product that you've made? If yes, let's see what retail distribution is available. If no, let's go back to the drawing board and see what we need to do. There's that market research again. Understand what that problem is, solve it, and go into retail. I think another issue or mistake that people make, they don't balance direct to consumer and retail. Both
Yes.
are really important in the CPG space. but I think a little bit too much has been made on the D2C channel. It's great. I know there's companies that are just D2C and doing $50 to $100 million, and it's phenomenal. But they'll never get acquired if that's what you're looking for. You have to show that retail distribution. And so I think you've got to recognize the readiness for retail distribution. Of course, don't go too early, but check market demand, your operational capacity, and that consumer feedback.
Yeah.
So Andrew just said another important thing a couple of times there, folks. So Tracy and I did an episode with George Brown of Accupol Precision Research, and George's episode, if you didn't listen to it, go back and find it, because of course all of you subscribe to the podcast. George talks about some of the different vehicles in market research, and not everything costs $400,000 and takes 8 months anymore. That's way old school there. So Andrew, a lot of the times, whether you're Procter and Gamble or Coke or Andrew and Tracy's excellent company, money is always precious or should be treated as such. What are some of the tactics you've seen kind of bubble to the top that just seem to repeatedly kind of work, that you might recommend small and emerging brands think about when they start have to laying their precious A&P dollars on the table?
Targeted demographics, your geographic reach. I think that's one of the most important things that you have to take a look at and decide what dollars need to go where. When you're looking at a retailer, especially at the beginning, you need to consider brand alignment with that retailer, with that consumer base of that retailer. Once you do that, you can start to do those targeted demographic searches, throw things out in the area, whether that be social, influencer, even direct mail at times if you're going for a national or a major grocer. But do your geographic research first. Make sure you understand where your product is going to sell best.
So Andrew, one of the things that we believe when we counsel small brands, and this just proves, folks, it's live TV. Andrew, Tracy and I talk a lot about kind of defending your home turf and projecting out from there, because we've all heard kind of horror stories that a brand might meet a retailer at a trade show and they have a good time talking, and they're going to have a meeting, except that retailer is in Seattle. And this is a brand with an East Coast presence because it's, who knows, clam chowder. I mean, talk a little bit, that gets back to your geographic match, but can you talk a little bit about the discipline? And maybe it comes back to what you were already saying about have a plan, but be flexible about, how do you say no? Because strategy is about as much as what you're going to do as what you're going to not do.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Greatest asset is the word no. You will grow more off of saying no than you will off of saying yes. Because the wrong deal will set you back, possibly close you down. If you only focus on the right deals, not all of them are going to hit. Let's be honest. This is CPG. This is a beast of a thing that we're undertaking, all of us in the entire industry. But if you do it right, saying no where you need to say no, it's very, very important.
Right. Tracy?
Yeah, that's just a great point. And the brands that I talk to a lot, all they care about, Andrew, is doors. I just want doors. I don't care where they are. I've had some brands I've worked with that they want to go into every class of trade. I want to be in airport shops. I want to be in convenience stores. I want to be in grocery stores. I want to be in the natural channel. And
don't forget cruise ships.
Oh yeah, cruise ships. Like I just want to be everywhere. And so I wanted to point that out because that just, is a great example of you have to say no, and you have to be, focused and stay with your strategy and say no more than you say yes. Would that be a true statement?
Absolutely. And Bruce, back to your question also, I don't think I answered this part of it. Defending your home turf is crucial. You've got to be number one around your hometown. But what I've also had success in doing is you build your home turf and you build your two big target markets. So let's say what you're selling goes best in Colorado and Southern California. You want to build those two and then your home turf. In doing that, you're probably not going to have, if you're an East Coast based company, you don't have people in Texas, you don't have people in California. There's a lot of great agency field teams out there that can help with that. Make sure that you're scanning for all resources available. They don't cost as much as you think they might. But when you do open up an away from home region, you definitely want to make sure that you have support there as well.
Great point. Well, that leads to our next question. So talk to us about maybe the good, the bad, and the ugly of hiring a broker or a direct sales force. A lot of times I see small emerging brands, they're trying to do it all themselves, which I think is you can do that for a while, but it's not sustainable. So tell us a little bit about maybe the pros and cons of, a direct sales force, which I know you've had, and then you've also had in your career broker sales force. So tell us a little bit about what to do. How do you pick? When do you pick? And what would be the best option you would recommend?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question to answer because every company is going to be different depending on the product you sell and how quickly you're looking to scale. I think you always need a combination of internal and external when it comes to sales. Having a really strong internal salesperson that has industry experience, they have a strong network themselves, but also they're going to have that deep understanding of the brand values and objectives. That's the person that you want working with that broker. Brokers are great, but they're only as good as the information that they get from you. In my opinion, a broker's job is not to sell your brand. A broker's job is to put you, the brand, in front of the right buyers in order for you to sell the brand. And I think sometimes brokers are looked at as, hey, you are my sales team. You need to go sell my product. And it's kind of like speaking to founders, and when founders will say to you, man, they just don't treat it like their company. It's not. It's not their company.
And they're never going to, are they? They never are going to.
You are never going to have the passion of the founder. And if you do, you're working for the wrong founder. You really are.
Yeah. Great point.
So I think that there's a real good balance. Now, as far as when to hire, I think you have to have that direct salesperson in first, fully trained. But I always have believed in taking your salespeople and cross-training them. They need operations. They need marketing knowledge. If your salespeople, your best salespeople, especially one that's going to be by themselves working with brokers, if they don't have an understanding of your operational capacity, your lead times, your raw material supplies, and if anything is going on in that department, so there's going to be out of stocks, or on the marketing side, what is marketing going to be doing? What social is going to be out there? What influencers are they working with? Are they targeted influencers? Are they general influencers? How do you build a sales strategy as that internal salesperson for the broker without having that cross training? So I think that's a crucial step that most smaller CPG companies miss.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that internal salesperson really is the link between the founder and the brand and sales, right? So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, a bad analogy might be that internal person is the conductor of the orchestra, right? Everyone else knows their instrument, but this guy knows the whole tune and what's trying to be accomplished. And Andrew, that's a great point. They kind of transfuse the external resources because they understand what you're trying to do organizationally. And the cross-training point is also excellent. I mean, people that have been in sales, whether they knew it or not, they got cross-trained in ops when their forecasts were terrible.
100%.
Hey,
or
so
when they've got OTIF issues. I mean, when OTIF issues pop up, that salesperson understands operations real fast.
Right. And for those out there, OTIF is on time in full. It's the importance of having accurate full orders, or you will get something called, it's another F word, a fine, that you are not performing at the right level. So, Andrew, the only thing Tracy and I have found that companies like more than sales is money, so that they can actually fund their operation. So when these smaller emerging brands start to get some traction, and maybe they've proven out in their home market that they can go, and maybe even one other target market with a good demographic match, like you just said, as an experienced person in this area, what are some of the triggers that say, hey, once you do this, this is when you're ready to go look for money? And what should a small brand look for in an investor? You know, you hear both sides of the coin. I just need a check. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then the other people are like, I want value added capital. The money's nice, but if they can open some doors or they have a skill set that I don't. So if you could go on about that for a bit, I think it'd be super helpful.
Yeah, right before I answer that, just to on that sales piece, small brands, I know money's tight. I know we're about to talk about funding money. Do not skimp on your salespeople's salary. It's one of the worst things that you can do. You don't want to make salespeople unhappy. You want them to be happy. You want them to be fat, and you want them to be fed. Those are going to be your best salespeople. And if you undercut them, they're more than likely going to look for something else and not put enough into your brand. And that's human nature. That's not because they're bad people, but our industry does pay well. And don't think that just because you're an emerging brand, you can use the sales pitch of, well, we're small and you'll scale with us. You're not going to get the best people that way. Please invest in your salespeople. I know most of my career was in sales. And of course, you're always looking for that top dollar. But once you start getting into the C-suite level, you start to really understand why that's so important.
Great advice.
So on to your question, Bruce. So when do you start to look for money? Have you proved it yet? Have you proved that your product's going to work? Are you owning the region that you're in? Do you have one more or two more targeted markets that the product is starting to sell? That your unit sales per week, your velocities are going to start meeting the buyer demands for what their gross margin return on footprint is for their shelf? If you've proven it and you believe now is the time to start expanding your business outside of just those couple places, that's when you'll want to start looking for investment. If you've got a product that you've sold in your home region and you've kind of flunked out of a couple retailers because you're not hitting those velocity demands, now's not the time. You're just going to get money and do what with it? Go back into the research phase, research and development phase? That's money's not going to help you as much as you think it is. Or it's going to be spent poorly and your investors are going to be upset with you.
So now that they've determined that their product or product works, now what should they look for in an investor in your experience?
You have to align with investors that share your vision for the brand, for the product, and your core values of your company. If one of your core values, and I was speaking to a company the other day, their company was built off of a really good friend that was in the military that lost his life. They started this company and they're giving 10% of their profits to his foundation. That's phenomenal. But if you have an investor that doesn't believe in those things and says, well, profit should stay in-house, we should do it a different way, we should just make minimal, you're going to be butting heads. Why would you let somebody in that doesn't share your values? Vision, maybe there's a little bit of flexibility on, because there's a lot of smart investors out there. Granted, there's some people that just have a lot of money and like to think they know what they're doing, but some of them are genuinely invested and bring a lot of value. Look for somebody with industry expertise, obviously somebody with a track record of success and long-term growth. Please, small CPG companies, don't get into bed with somebody that wants short-term boom. It's not going to turn out well for you, unfortunately.
So it sounds like you've reintroduced your word no, that when you're going through this mating process, if you don't hear things that sound right, and if that voice in your head is saying this isn't going to work, probably should trust it. So going one level deeper there, Andrew, now when you're on the other side of the table, when you were trying to raise money, aside from, you know, the things you might have learned the hard way about who to say yes and no to, in a first meeting, how deep should you be prepared to go? Is this like coffee and just kind of see if there's some sort of, you know, personality alignment and then go deeper? Or is this the 80-page deck with 14 years of P&L projections?
No, and honestly, the first two meetings should not be anything with numbers. It needs to be about rapport. It needs to be about compatibility. You've got to get to know who your investors are. Now, I've got the unique experience of helping companies raise money for my own companies, and investing in companies. So I've kind of got a perspective on all three phases of the game. And very honestly, when I'm investing in a company and I go to talk to that founder, they just want to speak numbers and they want to speak about what the vision is. And I slow it down every single time. Let me get to know you. How many kids do you have? Are you married? What, where do you live in the country? How's, what are your favorite activities? What made you build this brand? If you don't get to know the people and understand that you can work with those people, the money really doesn't mean anything. It's really easy to find money. Now, it's gotten a lot harder. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. People are being smarter with their investments. That doesn't mean that there aren't 50, 100, $150 million funds out there that are looking for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a people business, Andrew, right?
Yeah, and those are great.
Business.
I'm sorry. So those are great points, especially we've all met entrepreneurs that think their first meeting is the 80-page deck, and they need to be able to talk about cash flow waterfalls in year 4 and what's the cap table. It's like I like your way better, because if it's a bad match, don't do it.
What do the numbers matter?
Yep. Sorry, Tracy.
No, that's okay. No, it was really good insight from Andrew on that. So I just know that small emerging brands are really struggling to raise money, and you've got to have the right person. I think the biggest thing you said, Andrew, is getting the right person that has realistic expectations, not getting in bed with the person looking for the boom. That's, hey, I'd see it. Well, I want this, if I'm going to invest, I need this brand to be a $10 million brand by the end of the year.
Or what I've heard too frequently is, what can we buy at a good value and with minimal A&P triple in 3 years? And my answer is, well, unless we hire Harry Potter, that's going to be hard.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
But the perfect response to somebody that, Tracy, to your point of saying, I want it 0 to 10 in a year, I'm going to need triple the investment for the same amount of equity. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Yep. Jeez.
Great point. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about some of your greatest successes, or what you're most proud of in your career, and then maybe some of the, as I would call it, a do-over. Like you wish, man, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it differently. So let's talk about some successes. What are you most proud of accomplishment in your career so far?
So I truly believe my greatest accomplishment is, right now I've got 5 people that I hired with no experience, trained, mentored, and are now CEOs of other companies. And to me, that is the most important thing. Now, everybody watching this right now, you can probably tell I have children. No, I did not make all these myself, but I really appreciate you thinking that, because they're wonderful. But I like to foster growth, and that's why I do what I do, especially now in the consulting space. I like taking small brands and watching them grow. I like taking people and watching them grow. And so I think that's been my greatest career achievement. Now, I've been a part of 5 exits. I've got $1.3 billion worth of exits under my belt. So phenomenal corporate world achievements, but the people are really where it's at. I think as far as a product goes, and what I'm most proud of, was taking a small international product, successfully launching it full scale across the United States, very disruptive product in an extremely competitive market, and being able to reach widespread consumer adoption in the industry. That was with Vega, small Canadian company just coming into the United States, and I think what we did there was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge brand now.
Yeah.
All right, do-over. What's a do-over?
Oof. I won't mention names.
To protect the innocent. I get it.
To protect the innocent. I overstayed a contract after an acquisition. I was contracted to help do transitions, and I thought that big CPG could possibly be for me. And I would like those 6 months of my life back. That would be my do-over. I really love the startup world. And as crazy as that sounds, I might be a glutton for punishment because it's so much harder than having a name like Coke or Pepsi. Um, but I hate that big CPG mentality. I like going up against them, beating them at their own game, and then making them acquire me later down the road.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting view, Andrew, because in some of the work we do together and independently, when you get involved with the larger CPGs, either helping them or when I worked for them, they would have these elaborate new product development meetings with their stage gate. And, you know, all the time you choke off almost every single idea because if it has any differentiation, someone goes, this isn't what we do. And if it even clears a couple of gates, it's now so watered down, it's similar to what you're already doing. But then they'll run out and acquire one of your brands for big dollars. And then the CEO, he or she will go, why the hell can't we do this ourselves? It's because you choke off the innovation with these absurd initial gates, like $1 billion in 2 years. Okay, so unless you're bringing one of these weight loss drugs to market, probably not going to happen that quickly. So that's interesting that you're not the first guy to say that that's where the market is. I mean, we've met people that their job is to scour small brands and bring them to the big guys to buy because they're incapable of innovating at all in-house.
Yeah.
It's very true. And unfortunately, what happens to those smaller brands 3 years down the road after acquisition, they turn into the big company because more leaders come down from that larger parent company, and then they end up making the same mistakes that they make in their own brand. And
Or here's one for you. A brand that was paying almost nothing in trade funding, bought by a big company. 2 years in, they said, let's harmonize our account plans. So now this brand that had no trade rate against it is now at the corporate rate of 14%. And they wonder why it's less profitable now.
Mystery.
And then they cut heads, and
Mhm.
so on.
So Andrew, is there anything else that, you know, we might have missed that you'd like to put on the table? Because if not, how could people reach out to you if they were so inclined? And, you know, provided, I'm just glad that, you know, one of the do-overs wasn't that you wish you hadn't come on the show, because we thank you for that very much.
That was a close second.
Okay. I was worried about that.
So I if I can, I do want to toot my own horn just a tiny bit. I had the great pleasure of being awarded the top innovator of the year in CPG for 2023. Magazine to be coming out soon. There's a picture of the cover.
Nice.
We need autographed copies.
Yeah.
But when they come in, I'll send one over.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Worked very hard, and to be recognized in your work, especially with these small emerging brands, is really nice. Everybody can get a hold of me, Instagram, Facebook at the Partnered CEO, LinkedIn, the Partnered CEO, or my own personal page, which is just at Andrew Weiss. And the website is thepartneredceo.com if you want more information about what I do and how I can help you.
That's
all
awesome.
right. Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely. So Andrew, thank you so much. Very insightful, great insights for our audience today. So thank you so much for being our guest today. And then we invite our audience to please follow us on our Spotify or Instagram, wherever you get your podcast from, as well as LinkedIn. So look for this episode soon to be posted on our LinkedIn page, and as well as Spotify and Instagram. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today.
Good luck out there.
Yes.
Thank you.